The Super Bowl, as we welcome you to the show. So glad that you're with us today. Dan Orlovsky, Andrew Hawkins. We've got Marcus Spears as well. A lot to get to as we're getting closer to Super Bowl 59. There he is. There's a wave. Now we can officially get going here.
You went from a wave to now the...
Like what was that? All right, so let's dive in. Okay, you saw the fun from Media Night at the top of the show. The Eagles were there answering all sorts of questions from the media as they prepare to face the Chiefs on Sunday. And, of course, Sal Paolantonio is there covering the Eagles. Like always, all week long. Sal, what are the Eagles' plans for today?
Well, they have a day off today. They did a little media, so I guess technically they didn't have a full day off. They did have a light weightlifting session this morning at the Saints practice facility here in New Orleans, but they have the rest of the day off and tonight. But I talked to Big Dom, head of security of the Philadelphia Eagles. He said, curfew tonight, 11 p.m., back to football. And last night, I got a chance to talk to Saquon Barkley, the Eagles' stellar running back. But before I did that, I talked to his coach, Jamal Singleton, the running backs coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I said, just talk to me a little bit. Describe what Saquon Barkley is about around this football team, how he sets the tone. He said, you know what? When your best player is your hardest worker, that makes everybody else fall in line. So when I got a chance to talk to Saquon Barkley exclusively one-on-one on opening night, I asked him, what is the messaging going into Super Bowl 59? Listen to his answer.
Enjoy it, but at the same time stay locked in. It's a business trip, but with all this stuff that comes along with it, enjoy it, have fun with it, use it, but stay locked in. Keep the main thing the main thing.
The main thing is win the football game.
Of course, that's why we're here. Two teams left, the best in the AFC, the best in the NFC, and you wouldn't want any other way.
For you personally, what does this moment mean to be here on the doorstep of going to this game?
It's amazing. It's amazing to be here, especially with these group of guys and with my teammates. It's been a dream of mine, but I know I said it before, but I'm gonna keep saying it. The dream wasn't just to make it to the Super Bowl. The dream was to win.
Congratulations. See you on Sunday.
Always appreciate you.
Okay. You know, I've watched the maturation of Saquon Barkley and his development within this football team, Laura. Talked to him in April, talked to him in June, talked to him in August, talked to him in Brazil. Seen how he has been on and off the field. And he stayed with the same message within his own self, his own family. Number one, I want to rewrite my story. But the only way I can really do that in the end is to go to the Super Bowl and win it.
I love it, Sal. We can't wait to see the Eagles and the Chiefs in this game. Saquon Barkley, as you well know, one of the best stories in the NFL this season. And the Eagles certainly leaned on Saquon throughout the season, but the pass game finally got going in the NFC Championship game. Jalen Hurts had nearly as many pass yards as he did in the first two playoff games combined. He averaged 2.5 more yards per attempt. Now, the biggest area of improvement was passing deep. He completed 4 of his 5 passes, at least 15 yards downfield versus the Commanders after completing just one of those throws in the first 2 games. So, Hawk, what's key for Hurts and the pass catchers to keep that going against the Chiefs?
It's beating press coverage. The Chiefs play press coverage at a higher rate than most teams in the league. And when they go against A.J. Brown versus Trent McDuffie, McDuffie feels more comfortable and they're better in press coverage. But A.J. Brown is a press coverage beater. So this will be the biggest key for the Eagles. Can he do this effectively? This is against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're going to see him employ a physical release against the defensive back to create separation. But this is what makes A.J. Brown special. He's also elusive enough to create the quickness and slip that release just when the DB is expecting a physical jam. And then last but not least, he has the ability to put it all together. Enough speed to threaten to go and also be elusive and physical at the point to create big plays. Whenever teams press A.J. Brown, he has a 37% target rate, which is the highest in the league. So Jalen Hurts knows if you press him, I'm going to him, and they're going to see a lot of single high because of Saquon Barkley.
It's so impressive to see that. I mean, his route tree is outside release go, outside release slant, sometimes a stop, and he still wears people out.
It's ridiculous.
I think this is a huge Devontae Smith game as well. You got to think Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator, is like, we're going to stop Saquon Barkley. We're going to try to take A.J. Brown away. Devontae Smith's played the Chiefs 3 times. In all 3 games, 6+ catches in all of them, over 99 yards in all of them, and 2 explosive plays of 20 yards or more in all of them. I just believe that against this elite defense that's going to try to take away your fastball, your first and second best pitch, Devontae has been such a viable threat. If one of those receivers impacts this defense, that Saquon Barkley run game is going to be a huge benefit.
You mentioned the elite defense that the Chiefs have. Certainly the Commanders, different story. So this is a much tougher competition for them. Marcus, can the Eagles do enough to buy Hurts time against Chris Jones and George Karlaftis?
They absolutely can, and a part of it is what Dan and Hawk just talked about. But Saquon Barkley is the reason that they can do enough. You either use him in protection or you use him as a chess piece to create time for your quarterback, whether that's RPO in the backfield, whether that's with the threat of a screen game. There is an opportunity to slow down that blitz package and that rush. We know Steve Spagnuolo is going to do it, and most of the time he catches you off guard on some down and distance situation. But more importantly, on third down, if you get in a critical situation, you know what Steve Spagnuolo is going to do. And listening to Hawk and Dan reminded me of something from years ago. Y'all, this is the version of AJ that we saw when he was with the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry was his running back. And I think about that from the context of when you get to this game, this particular game against Trent McDuffie, and having to win those one-on-ones, it absolutely is what the game may come down to in critical down and distance situations. But to that question, Boogie, Saquon Barkley can help you a lot in the vein of not just handing them the football off, but moving them around and changing his location to slow some things down for the Kansas City Chiefs.
One, Jalen Hurts will have to do a great job of seeing the picture change. You've mentioned it, Hawk. Marcus just hit it there, the one-on-ones. It's not going to be obvious, though. Yeah. It's not like he's going to get to the line of scrimmage like he did against the Commanders and you say, oh, you have one safety in middle field. I've got double press corners on the outside. I know what the coverage is. No team lies to you coverage-wise more than Kansas City. So how good as he is post-snap is going to be a big deal. 2, defensive back blitzes. That is going to be the key in this game for the protection, the diagnosis. No team blitzes defensive backs more than the Chiefs. And if you just look at Jalen Hurts, the last time that he saw defensive back blitzes versus this defense, he was a lesser quarterback. And so, but it's not just him. This is going to be the receivers communicating to the quarterback, the offensive line, handling it all, the backs, whether it's Gainwell or Saquon Barkley or Will Shipley, handling those defensive back blitzes will be huge in this game because they are going to come and come often.
To your point, they have to expect something, especially in critical moments. That's what slipped up for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
No doubt.
Spags is going to have that plan.
Slips up versus everybody.
No, absolutely. And to your point about even just disguising the single versus double, they disguised Jalen in the 3 times that he's gone against him more than any other team by like 10%. So they know they're going to make him think so he doesn't have that clear picture just to shoot it over to A.J. Brown.
For reference, we saw him put up a great performance against the Commanders. The Commanders only blitzed a DB on 3% of Hurts dropbacks in the NFC Championship. That'll be a whole lot higher percentage in this game. All right, in other news out of Los Angeles, may not be the seismic shift of Anthony Davis traded from the Lakers for Luka Doncic in the NBA, but Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp says the team is seeking to trade him. Kupp posted a goodbye to LA on X, in part saying this: I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in LA. Still, if there's one thing that I've learned over the years, there are so many things that are out of your control, but it is how you respond to these things that you'll look back and remember. 2024 began with one of the best training camps of my career. Preparations start now for 2025. Highly motivated, as healthy as ever, and looking forward to playing elite football for years to come. So through the first 12 weeks, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were both putting up big numbers for the Rams. Kupp's 11 targets per game was the second most in the NFL, and they were both ranked top 10 in receiving yards per game. From week 13 on, Nacua became the alpha in the Rams offense, averaging 6 more targets, 56 more receiving yards per game than Kupp did, and Kupp failed to reach 30 receiving yards in 5 of his final 7 games. Dan, which teams do you think should be interested in Kupp?
The Houston Texans, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Denver Broncos, and the San Francisco 49ers. First of all, just because he's getting cut or traded doesn't mean he can't play. Maybe he can't play at the number or the production that they want for his salary cap. Yeah, I still think Cooper is a 70 to 80 catch guy and specifically work in the middle field. If you're the Houston Texans, you don't know what you're going to get with Steph or Tank Dell, if they'll even be on the team next year, specifically Steph. their new offensive coordinator, just came from the Los Angeles Rams. Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, those choice routes, it's huge. Cincinnati, are you really going to be able to pay Jamar and T if you can't pay T? I love having that option outside of Jamar. And I know it's within the division, but the 49ers only have really legit receivers. We'll see what happens with Debo, Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall because B.A. might be hurt. So I still think there's going to be a big crowd for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I agree with all those options. The thing about Cooper Kupp is he's the kind of receiver that pretty much fits in any offense. Yeah. Right? And to your point about the numbers, don't be fooled by where he is from an ability standpoint. Right. Every team is going to look for cheaper options that can do the same or close to the same thing, and that's what Puka provided for the LA Rams. As I look at teams, I'm looking at places like the Cowboys, the Bills, or another team. The Bills kind of have this receiver by committee, and what it does for you is it allows you to right-size Mac Hollins if you get him back, keep Shakir in the slot, and also Keon Coleman is going to be a better player than he was a year ago. So if you're Cooper Kupp, you're looking for a place with a quarterback that can be at the level that you're used to with Matt Stafford.
Yeah, good point.
Y'all know I have one every offseason, and this is the one, and Hawk just alluded to it. Dallas should explore this heavily. And I sat and listened to Brian Schottenheimer in his press conference talk about shifts and motions. And I saw Cooper Kupp wear people ass out in Los Angeles with shifts and motions, if that is going to be the case offensively. And Dak needs a competent number 2 wide receiver to CeeDee Lamb, who can be, to your point, D.O., still highly productive, and it would create and change pictures. The thing that I always, we know Cooper Kupp has been a triple crown winner. The thing that I always assimilate him with is the ability to win in critical situations. It felt like year after year after year, when the play was there to be made and there was a play needed to be made, that was where Matthew Stafford's comfort level lied. So I think he can be that for Dak Prescott across from CeeDee Lamb and create some problems with that offense. It'll be interesting to see. But to y'all point, man, I think this will be a big market for a receiver of his stature and his career achievements.
You mentioned that Triple Crown. Since that season in 2021, Kupp has played 33 games in 3 seasons with a season high of 812 receiving yards. All right, we're Jews out of Cleveland yesterday. The All-Pro defensive end Myles Garrett wants out, requesting a trade from the Browns and saying he wants to go to a contender. Garrett said the goal wasn't to get to Canton, but to win a Super Bowl. It's not about the individual side. He wants to do this with a team. He hopes to land somewhere that is possible to win a Super Bowl, right? Myles Garrett has recorded at least 10 sacks in 7 straight seasons, tied for the 3rd longest streak since sacks became official in 1982. The only players with longer streaks in their career are Hall of Famers Reggie White and John Randall. Marcus, if the Browns actually trade him, which that's a big question, right? Shefty was saying this yesterday. The Browns have not moved on this so far. They've said they wouldn't do it. But let's say that they did. How big would this be?
Yeah, we all say stuff, Boogie. I'm looking forward to seeing where they trade him to. I got the Commanders, the Lions, and Tampa. And obviously, I talked about it yesterday with the Washington Commanders. The cap space, a young team with a quarterback that's going to seemingly going to continue to ascend. Joe Witt Jr., the defense coordinator, along with Dan Quinn. We know they like to get after the passer. But the Lions are intriguing to me because it would remind me of when DeMarcus Ware left Dallas and went to Denver, and him and Von Miller was opposite sides of each other. Obviously, Myles is in that vein on his way to getting the gold jacket once he continues this production. But to pair him with Aiden Hutchinson it would make them the most dominant 2 edge rushers. I keep thinking about Houston with Danielle Hunter and the youngin over there. But more importantly, when you think about Myles Garrett, Will Anderson, when you think about Myles Garrett and you look at it in totality, and I look at it from the prism of a defensive lineman, your linebackers get better in pass coverage and your secondary gets better in pass coverage if you add Myles Garrett to your front line, because everybody operation at the line of scrimmage is sped up. Or you either have to subject somebody without getting into a route in order to try to keep him off your quarterback. So he changes the picture defensively, like we talk about offensive guys as well. But that pairing in Detroit would be scary for people in the new DC Kelvin Shepard.
Minnesota, Philadelphia, Washington. I think this is huge news. Marcus, guys like this don't come around often. They're not available often if he is available.
Rare.
This is like J.J. Watt in the peak of his career becoming available, or Aaron Donald. There's not a handful of guys in this league that every Monday, coordinators sit down and go, what are we going to do with this guy in every play? Every single play, run and pass. He is one of them. It all starts with Cleveland and their vantage point of the second pick in the quarterbacks. We know they need, if not 2 quarterbacks. If they don't like the quarterbacks in this draft, then your pool of teams that if you're going to entertain trading it changes. That's where the Minnesota comes in, because does Minnesota want to resign Sam Darnold? Then if you're Cleveland, you go, well, we want J.J. McCarthy, and you work out a trade in that regard. If you're Cleveland and you like one of these 2 young quarterbacks in the draft, a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders, or maybe in the second round with like a Milroe, then maybe your pool of teams becomes a little bit bigger, and you go, well, Philadelphia, what are you willing to give us? Is Nolan Smith a part of it? Washington, what are you willing to give us? It all starts with Cleveland and where they believe their next move or 2 are quarterback-wise.
If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I don't trade Myles Garrett. To your point, he is too much of a generational talent. It automatically says we are restarting from scratch. Everything that we talked about with the Cleveland Browns has been because of this defense. And that defense, because Myles Garrett is over there, which again, okay, let's say you take that position, it becomes a straight bidding war because all 31 teams, it changes the face of their organization with Myles Garrett there.
Let me push back on you. If you're the Cleveland Browns and you don't want to try and trade Myles Garrett,
me too,
man.
What are you doing at quarterback?
You got to. Then you're thinking. That's always as someone who played there. That's been our question for years.
In a year where Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they're probably going to have to win, right? So it's the nature of that league. Daniel Jones, you can't afford Sam Darnold. So then
you got to either go to. I mean, if we're going, and that's where the bidding war comes in, because who has a quarterback you can throw into that package? Yeah, J.J. McCarthy. Is it Hendon Hooker? Is it 2 first rounds? I think that literally everybody throws their name in this hat, and this is like a personal connection to me because I was a part of the 1 in 15 team that got Myles Garrett there. I took those shots on the 10. You know,
you walked so he could run.
I walked so we could
Look at that
have these Myles Garrett jerseys in my son's closet. So there is a heart aspect to this that we don't typically get into in NFL Live.
No,
but
I like that.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Go Swag.
I mean, we can talk about the business element of it, but we also, like, the human element exists now. This man has went public saying he no longer wants to play for the Cleveland Browns. And that is absolutely the fly in the ointment. We saw Jalen Ramsey do this with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was a hamstring, it was an ankle, it was a back, until they figured out what they would do as far as to trade him. I think it took a lot for Myles Garrett to say this. If you know him and you've been around him, it took a lot. He's a very commitment type of guy. Like, he's done, y'all. He's completely done with the Cleveland Browns in order for him to come out and make a staunch statement like this. So I don't think Andrew Berry and this organization has many options unless they just want to play bully ball and have Myles Garrett there disgruntled.
Yeah, and there's a ton of respect, certainly, in that front office for Myles Garrett and who he is. That's a reality here. He also had told us he met with them to try to figure out their future plan. He's gone through this and gone about it the right way. Okay, it's Super Bowl media night last night. You see a bunch of them there. Their 3rd straight Super Bowl appearance. They're veterans at this stuff. They know a thing or two about it. Mahomes there jazzing up the crowd with Travis Kelce. So Jeff Darlington is covering the Chiefs all week. Jeff, what is the latest we should know about how they're feeling about this and they're using their Super Bowl experience to influence their current one?
Yeah, well, Laura, first of all, I'm here at the team hotel where the Chiefs are staying right in the middle of the French Quarter in New Orleans. And not but 15 minutes ago, no fewer than 24 police on motorcycle pulled in, escorting the Chiefs team buses back to the hotel. They just concluded a light practice at Tulane. Now, during that practice, it's nothing intense, basically just a jog through, as it was told to me, just to keep the blood moving. Second day in a row that they're doing that. Not until tomorrow will they really engage in a full practice. So what does that mean for the Chiefs as they continue to inch closer toward this game? Well, I can tell you Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce talked today about the differences between what they dealt with their first Super Bowl and now, and they are absolutely trying to lean into experience.
I think just being able to feel the tempo of a game and feel how the game flow is going. I feel like when I was younger, I wanted to just make the big play happen the whole game. And I obviously still want to do that, but whenever the defense is playing well or the offense, we're struggling a little bit, it's about getting us back in rhythm, getting us back in tempo so that the big plays kind of come to us and we're not trying to force them.
Oh, my first Super Bowl ever, I really I got caught into the hype. Yeah, it's easy to get caught into the hype. All the cameras, all the lights, it's the biggest game of your life, and the entire world is going to watch it. And you've been dreaming about the moment of being on the field and playing in that game since you were a little kid. And that can take away from your ability to just go out there and play the game that you've loved since you were a little kid. So it's the biggest lesson I've learned is don't let the hype get to you. Don't let the magnitude of the game around you get to you. At the end of the day, this is you got here for a reason. Your team got here for a reason. So lean on them and don't let the moment be too big for you.
Now, in terms of news, there really isn't that much right now. Everything's pretty calm, injury-free at this point. They're basically just kind of staying focused. Now, one storyline that we're kind of paying attention to was Andy Reid. Last year, we talked about, will he retire if he wins? Well, I can tell you this year, not a storyline at all, because Andy Reid cleared that up very quickly and made very clear that he will be back after this season, regardless of what happens on Sunday. So if we're looking for anything, we shouldn't be looking there, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, we'll just try to keep making it interesting there for you. You're out in front of parking garages. You have some nice plants around you, and things are just ho-hum ahead of the Super Bowl. Great stuff.
That's okay. That is fine.
We'll keep it that way.
I tend to bring drama. We're not trying to do that. We're just going to stay here in the parking garage. All is
off the Senior Bowl. Our Matt Miller has a new mock draft out today. Look at this. He has edge rusher Abdul Carter going to the Titans with the first overall pick, followed by two-way star Travis Hunter. First quarterback goes off the board when Cam Ward goes to the Giants at number 3. He also has the Raiders getting their quarterback of the future, with Shedeur Sanders falling to number 6. And Matt's here to take us through the mock. So glad to have you, Matt. Good to see you. Why Abdul Carter to the Titans at number 1?
Laura, sometimes it's very simple. He's the best player in the draft class, so he should go first overall. He's a true difference maker at the edge rusher position. You're going to see him wearing 11 at Penn State, and you're going to think, wow, Micah Parsons did this same thing. He's that type of player. He's played linebacker, then he was a sub-pass rusher, now a full-time pass rusher, and no one could stop him. He played with one arm in the Notre Dame game. They couldn't even stop him, even though his right arm was banged up. So he is, without a doubt, the best player in this class, and he should be the first overall pick.
I love that from Matt. I think disruptive. I saw him against Notre Dame, and it seemed like he made every defensive play in that game. And you pair him up in Tennessee with Jeffrey Simmons, and now you got one of the best interior, and I think he's going to develop into one of the best outside pass rushers. And not just that, you can move him around as well. The quickness, the ability to get under blocks, the ability to stunt in schemes as well. It's a great call by you, Matt, per usual.
Okay, Matt, at 2, another team passing on a quarterback is you have the Browns taking Travis Hunter. What's the thought there?
You could get someone who can play two positions that are needs for you. They need a wide receiver opposite Jerry Jeudy. We see on defense the health of Denzel Ward is something they have to monitor consistently. The great thing with Hunter is he can do both those things for you. We'll see which position he plays primarily. I personally think he's a better wide receiver than he is corner prospect. They also make about double, which I would advise him to look into, but he is a difference maker. That's why he took home the Heisman this year, and it's why he should be one of the first picks this year.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that. To your point, he's 2 draft picks in one. You get a corner and a receiver, and I know people question whether or not he can do it at the next level. I think it'll be tough to be a full-time corner and a number 2 receiver, but I do like him in that wide receiver 3, maybe 3.5, where he's in 11 personnel or 4 wide, getting about 30 to 40 snaps a game versus 60 to 70. It becomes a little bit much.
It's going to be fascinating to see his transition wherever he ends up. Matt, finally, your first quarterback off the board, going to the Giants at 3. It's Cam Ward. What's the thought behind that pick?
Yeah, Cam Ward is such a good fit for what Brian Daboll has done traditionally on offense. Think back to his days with Buffalo, the way he brought Josh Allen along as a young quarterback. Ward can get it done on the move. He can get it down in the pocket. He has the best velocity of any quarterback in this draft class when he's on the go. He's got that short stop throwing motion that allows him to find passing windows no matter where he's at on the field. And the cool thing about Ward is we've actually seen him develop and get better at every stop throughout his college football career. So he's on an upward trajectory. That's what gets him at number 3 overall.
Super talent. Now, if you're the Giants, it's the only thing that matters this offseason is you got to find the quarterback and the right quarterback. He's probably going to take a couple weeks, and then 2,
couple weeks.
You better, of preparation, and you better commit to Brian Daboll for 2 or 3 years. If he takes him with Joe Shane, you want to make sure that he's with that quarterback to build continuity.
All right, Matt, you have Shedeur Sanders going to the Raiders at 6. Why?
Tom Brady's going to get his guy here. They've worked together in off seasons. I also think Brady's going to see somebody that can play in the pocket, and he's surgical. When things are kept clean around him, he can play on time. The problem is he loves to drift in the pocket. He loves to wait for an opening. I think he learned some bad habits when the Colorado offensive line wasn't great in 2023. That got better this year, but he's tough, he's accurate, and he loves football. I think that's something that Tom Brady's going to see now as minority owner who's very, very involved in what the Raiders are doing. And Shedeur can step in and play right away. The Raiders need that quarterback who can play week 1.
Easiest decision of the draft and the by far perfect situation for Shedeur Sanders. I do think there's some young talent in Las Vegas, Brock Bowers being the premier kind of mainstay for that. I love the fact that he's with Pete Carroll, candidly, because you know that defensively they're going to not force him to have to score 30, 35, 40 a game. I also love the fact that their new offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, has the collegiate ties, so the new age offense and some of the stuff that Shedeur is comfortable with also understanding how the NFL game works. If you were Shedeur Sanders, you would take this in a heartbeat. It would be perfect for him.
Yeah, I think when it comes to what Shedeur and Dion might want, this makes a lot more sense than some of the other options that are out there. Great stuff from Matt. We've got a lot more coming from you and to you as we get prepared for the draft.